All right, today we're going to take some notes today in our math notebook. So what I'd like you to do is open up to your next clean page. All right, so I've opened up to my next clean page right here. I'm going to add today's date so that way I know what day I took these notes on. For me, it is 10/12/20 for today, but I'm taking these notes on Monday, so it might be a different date for you. All right, so the first note that we're going to take this week is one of our properties we've been learning about, and this property is the identity property. So I'm going to write the name of the property right here. IDENTITY, property, PROPERTY. And remember, anytime during our note taking, you can pause the video by pressing the pause button and then continue on when you're ready to take your next note. All right, so I know that the identity property means that anything, and I might make a little bubble here. I'm gonna write anything times 1 always equals itself. So that is the meaning of the identity property. And I want to make some examples here. So anything times 1, I could say 1 times 6. So anything times 1 equals itself. So 1 times 6 equals 6. I could also flip that using the commutative property. I could say 6 times 1, it's still going to equal 6. Okay? Another example, we could pick any number. We could say 1 times 9. Anything times 1 equals itself. So 1 times 9 equals 9. We could flip it. We could say 9 times 1 equals 9. So I could say any number times 1. I could say 100 times 1 equals 100. I could say 99 times 1 equals 99. It equals itself. All right, so that is our first note we're going to add. We're going to add another vocabulary word. The other property we've talked about was the distributive property. Remember, if you want to pause to wait and catch up, if you don't have all of these notes, please press pause. Our next word is the distributive property. So I'm going to write my next vocabulary word here. Distributive. DISTRIBUTIVE. So the distributive property. So I'm going to give myself another little bubble around my important word. And I'm going to write the meaning of that also. So the distributive property is when you break a large multiplication fact into smaller multiplication facts. Okay, so distributive means we're going to take a large multiplication fact and break it into smaller multiplication facts. Now I'm going to draw an example model right here. Remember to pause if you need to catch up in writing your definition. So I'm going to write an example of a large multiplication here. Now EX is my abbreviation for example. So I'm going to do 6 times 7 because that is a larger fact. And I know that 6 times 7 means I'm going to have 6 rows of 7 dots. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start at the top and I'll work down. So I'm going to make sure that I'm working in my space here. So I'm going to make 6 rows of 7 dots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 1 row of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And remember, we're trying to stack them neatly where your rows and columns are nice and straight. So that's 4 rows of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of 7 dots. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to think of a good place where I could split this into a smaller multiplication fact that might be easier for me to know. Well, if I have 6 rows, I feel like if I had 5 rows, I could figure that out easier. So I think I'm going to split off 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have 1 row left. So I'm going to label my smaller fact here. This is 1 row of 7. So let's label this 1 times 7. And this part is 5 rows of 7. So we're going to label this one 5 times 7. All right, so now I can count by 5 7 times to figure this out. That's like doing 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So if I count by 5 7 times, 5 times 7 is 35. And I know 1 times anything equals that number, so 1 times 7 equals 7. And then we're going to take our 2 parts and put them back together. So we're going to say 35 plus 7 equals, I think I'm going to think about it as 7 is 5 and 2. 35 and 5 makes 40, plus 2 more is 42. So I know that the answer to this large multiplication problem, when I put it back together, the product is 42. So I'm going to write that right there. All right, so these are our notes for today. Make sure that you have, make sure that you have all of these notes on your page for today. And remember, you can always go back and watch any part that you need to catch up on. All right, great job taking notes today on these important vocabulary words.